You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and today we have a true honor talking to our special guest. This special guest right now, she is someone that you really need to know because she has an amazing story. She's a superstar, too. She's done a lot of great work in the entertainment business, but also with writing and screenplay, playwriting. So first and foremost, we have Alretha Thomas. She is going to share with us her amazing book, The Daughter Between Them. But not just that, she has an amazing career. She graduated from USC with a journalism degree, but she also pursued playwriting and novel writing. She had amazing success. She's worked with some of the greatest names, including Tyler Perry. So we're going to get the inside scoop on that as well. But before we do that, before I spend another second talking about her amazing resume, I want to welcome her to the show and say, how are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you clearing your calendar to be with us today. I know time is always precious and you have a very busy schedule. So I just want you to kind of educate the audience a little bit. I kind of gave you a little sneak peek with your background, just with school, but also you are also a very seasoned professional as well. So kind of give us a little bit of the behind the scenes of how you got to where you are today.
Well, I've had a very interesting journey, to say the least. I was born in Oakland, raised in San Francisco, had kind of a rocky start, with my upbringing. It's crazy, at 3 years old in Oakland, I was scalded by a neighbor. She was a woman that was mentally unstable, and we really believed that she was after my mom. I was not even in school yet, but I remember watching a picture book and seeing this woman approach the window. The window was open, and I could see the steam coming out of the pail, and she just threw the water on me, and I had second-degree burns. I had to learn to walk again. And then from there, we ended up moving to San Francisco, and there were challenges with my stepdad. He was in and out of prison, and we were in foster homes. My mom was real sickly. Great mother, beautiful mother. My mother was, I say she was stop traffic beautiful. But there was a curse and a blessing with that because she was really taken advantage of, especially not being around her family. And she was involved with one particular person, and there was some molestation that went on with me. And, but I don't want to stay on that because I guess it just set the stage for the listeners and viewers to let them know that your past doesn't have to be your present or your future. And I just want people to know that I'm victorious. I'm not a victim. In my early 20s, I started acting out because of the trauma, because I actually found my mom. My mom passed when she was only 36 and I was 14, and I found her. So that was very traumatic. So yes, I had a lot of trauma in my life, and I was blessed to realize that. And once I started acting these things out, being in the wrong places at the wrong time, dealing with the wrong people, I got help. And I had to do a lot of forgiveness. And that forgiveness was key in me becoming free and becoming victorious. And so after my mom passed, I moved to Compton and lived with my paternal grandfather, my mom's dad, and his wife, and went to high school. I excelled in high school. I got on the speech team. I graduated second in my class. I got scholarships and loans to go to USC, where I studied journalism. And when I was in high school, I had a lot of friends that were actors, but I felt like it was just too precarious of a career. I didn't want to be waiting on tables, if you will. But needless to say, it was kind of in me. I believe it was a part of my DNA, because after I went to USC and I started studying journalism, it was during a really bad recession, so I had to do office work. And then I started dabbling in modeling and acting, and I started having a love for it. And I studied for 7 years. I got some under 5 roles on soap operas, some parts in some B movies, but I was still struggling because of my childhood. And I had to step away. And while I stepped away from acting, I start writing books. That's how I got into books. I start writing books. I always wanted to write a book about a young woman who has a traumatic childhood and becomes victorious. Does that sound familiar? So it's kind of loosely based on my childhood. But I wrote this book. I really didn't know what I was doing. And I tried to get an agent, and some of the agents would, they tell me, you have something there, but you're struggling with structure, would not. Because even though I went to school for journalism, writing news copy is a lot different than writing fiction. And so I start honing my craft and writing my books and end up having 15 books. The book that you mentioned, The Daughter Between Them, this is my 15th book. And so I started writing the books. But in 2016, I asked my husband, who I've been married to for 25 years, we just celebrated 25 years of marriage last September 18th. What would he think about me if I could make the math going back to acting? And he said, cool, if you could make it work, and I did. And so in 2016, with 15 books under my belt, I decided to step back into acting full time. And I got an agent, I pulled up my own footage. And for 4 years, things were slowly taking off, getting commercials here and there, doing this and that here and there. And then the pandemic hit. So it was like, oh no, oh my gosh. The pandemic hit, and I was reaching back to my old bosses because I had been in corporate America for like almost 30 years. And I was figuring I was going to have to go back. And then I get this audition notice for this show called Assisted Living, Tyler Perry Studios, role of Anastasia Devereaux. And I was like, oh, there's no way I would get this. They want Felicia Rashad. There's no way I get this. I put 100% into the audition. It was a self-tape. About 2 weeks later, I get this call from my agent, and she's like, they want to make you an offer. And I had no idea what she was talking about because I had divorced myself from the process because I knew I was going to get something that fabulous. And I was like, what do you mean? She says, well, they want to make you an offer for the role of Anastasia Devereaux. They're flying you out. And I just started screaming. I was like, oh, no. I'm like, it's God. Because I have a strong spiritual base. During that time when my mom was sick and all that happened, she had met a preacher. And so I had accepted Christ when I was 11, and I got baptized at 13, and they called me the Bible girl in high school. So I had a strong spiritual base, and that helped me get through too with getting well, getting over all the trauma. And so I said, wow. And I went out, and the rest is history. In my second year on the show, season 4 on the show, I came in at season 2. They made me a series regular, and we're in our 5th season now. So miraculous journey. I pinch myself at times, and I just say, I'm a miracle. What can I say? I'm a miracle.
I have to pinch myself too, because it's amazing to be able to talk to someone, to have that kind of opportunity on such a major platform. I mean, let's be real and honest here. This is major to work be on BT Network, show that's on BT Network, but also to have a chance to work Tyler Perry himself, a very strong genius and creative, and what a story that he has personally as well. So for you to be able to have that kind of success, I mean, for someone that kind of took a break and you did other things and then you came back to it, like that's very
It is miraculous. And it's interesting that you mentioned Tyler, because I met him my second year on the show, and we were in quarantine because, as I said, I got the role during the pandemic. So they had a person come to my house to COVID test me, and Tyler, he got a jet, he chartered a private plane for us to fly out so we wouldn't meet with the general public because of the pandemic. And then when we got to the campus, which is his studio, we were isolated again. They tested again. I mean, really, he had it down to a science. That's why he was able to still produce, and no one got ill because we tested 2-3 times a week. It was an amazing experience. But meeting him was so incredible because he and I have a similar background because he was abused, coming up. He suffered as a child. And so when I met him, I felt that connection, and I cried. I cried when I saw him for the first time. And he said, "Why are you crying?" And I was just telling me because I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. And I had to thank him for not giving up, because I imagine him, that little boy under the house that he used to say, and he used to imagine all these stories. And I told him, if you had given up, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have my dream. So by him staying steadfast and doing what the purpose God had given him to create this character, Anastasia Devereaux, and so many other characters, this man has employed so many hundreds of people. And to meet him and be in his presence was overwhelming. I was so full of gratitude. And it was so wonderful to be able to thank him personally. He is a creative genius. You know, he's so prolific. All the shows are coming out. I didn't get to work with him directly because season 2 had turned the show over to other directors, Mark Swinton, Derek Deuce, and other writers, which they are all equally talented. But he's come on set before, you know, he's hugged us, supported us, cheered us on. You know, it's an amazing environment to work in. David and Tamala Mann are on our show, Naeem Lynch, Anthony Brown, Courtney Nicole, Taylor Buck, you know, Alexander, you know, we got young people on the show, Damian Leake, Alexander Henderson, Chet Onukwe, you know, we're like a great family. It's a camaraderie, and there's a lot of love and a lot of spirituality on set. You know, you feel very comfortable, and they treat us so well. And I love my character. I love Anastasia Devereaux. I say she's a better dresser than I am. I'm not the fashionista she is. You'll catch me on any day with cut off jeans or whatever. But I understand her, and she's had a colorful love life, you know, 8 marriages. You know, she's an actress. We have that in common. But I loved what the writers had given me about her, and I've added to her backstory who she is and what she is. And she's very conscientious, and she's very about the culture and about uplifting young people. And we have a lot of great episodes, you know, on the show. And it's an amazing experience to be able to do what I love to do.
Once again, you're listening to Am Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Alretha Thomas, and talking about her book, The Daughter Between Them. I'm glad that you went in and talking about your opportunity to be on the show and working as actors, because just seeing how flexible you are in your professional world, that speaks a lot. So my next question for you will be, what is what's one lesson that comes to mind that you believe kind of position you to not just be a great writer, but just a great professional? Because to be able to balance a busy schedule and to be able to work on a project and to be able to execute, I mean, passion is one thing, but having clarity on what you really want to achieve is another.
Well, you know, what's interesting, as I mentioned, when I graduated from school, I ended up going into corporate America. You know, I had to work, I had to eat. And I was in corporate America for over 20 years. And the things that I learned in college, you know, about organizational, being able to multitask and all those things, I brought to corporate America. And I honed those skills. And I worked in banking, and I worked for people that were in finance, executive assistant. And, you know, I had to be on point. I had to be able to multitask. I had to be able to focus. I had to be able to complete things. So I learned a lot of skills that facilitated my success in the entertainment industry, because you have to be a professional. You know, you have to be early is the new on time. You know, I'm a woman of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I honed all those skills being in corporate America, because millions and millions of dollars could be on the line in terms of a client. You got to set up a conference call. It has to be on time. It has to be the right number, you know. So those skills I brought with me. That's why I believe I'm able to focus. I'm able to balance and be professional. That working on assisted living was the biggest thing I've ever had and the biggest platform. And I'm working with seasoned, you know, comedians, and I'm working with a billionaire. you have to be on time. You have to show up. You got to be ready for the people that you're working with. There are hundreds of people involved. It's not just you. So I believe the skills and the discipline and organizational skills and be able to multitask and show up and do what I'm supposed to do, I honed those years in corporate America. And innately, I'm also that kind of person. You know, my family, they will laugh. They may say, oh, you're controlling or whatever. You know, it's not that. I'm a, you know, A-type personality. You know, I have my list. I have my to-do list. I believe in hitting those to-dos and getting those tasks done. And I think that has why I'm able to balance the two and do it, you know, professionally. And I just thank God, too, for the things that he's given me. You know, I don't want to take all credit. You know, I do thank God for the journey, you know, that has aided me in getting to where I am today.
And it's like you said, you have to understand there are a lot of things on the line. You're now dependent on to play your role, to do what you do, what you were hired to do, what you were trusted to do. You have to hit out the park, and the way you do that is that preparation in the background when no one sees you, when you're in the trenches, when it looks ugly under construction, and when it's that time to shine, it's not as hard to do because you already been prepared. So my next question for you mentioned faith, and we haven't gotten to that yet, but how did your personal faith play a role in all these different seasons of your life? Because it's one thing to just have your book out there and have it marketing done, and also being able to continue your acting career as an actress. How has faith been able to get you through the dry seasons into now, I would say, a very nice period of time? Because there's a lot of people who would love to be in your shoes.
Well, I have to say that faith has played a very big role because of my background and the trauma and all of that. You know, there was a time where I didn't have any belief or faith in myself. You know, I had no esteem. I hated myself because I internalized the things that happened to me. I felt like I must not be a good person. And so once I did step into my faith and accept Christ and get to realize that God loves me and that all human beings have intrinsic value, you know, no matter who we are, you know, we have this thing and we're conditioned in society, you know, and I understand it. I don't have a problem with it. As children, you know, we're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? It's like we're almost set up for who we are not being enough, because it's like, who you are is not enough. So who do you want to become? Because who you are is not enough. We know logically that's not true, but I believe subconsciously that can play a part in us where it starts making us feel we're not enough. And so we have to add these titles. It doesn't mean that we can't have dreams or be successful. There just has to be balance with that. And so there was a time where I felt I wasn't worth anything. I wasn't anything. But when I got into my faith, I believe I began to realize, no, I'm valued. I'm worthy. I can do this. I'm good. I'm loved. I'm precious. I'm important, you know, to God. And then I began to put self-love. I love me today. I love me. I know that I'm valuable and I'm worthy. So I know I can with preparation and opportunity come together, you have success. So that faith gave me the strength to know I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. You know, God loves me. I'm worthy. I'm worthy of being on the show. I'm worthy of having a book, having success. And that's the part that it played, you know, giving me that self-worth and that self-esteem to be able to step out and take a leap of faith and do the things that, you know, I've done.
And speaking of taking a leap of faith, let's get more into the book now. When you decided to put this story together, the book follows two women, like you said earlier in today's interview, on a seemingly separate paths, but their lives converge in a powerful way. What motivated you to create these characters and also show the readers their journey?
That's a great question. losing my mom at 14, I didn't have the benefit of the love of the mother, going into my early 20s and whatnot. So I vicariously, I believe, lived through these women, the two mothers. The mother-child bond is so strong, how much a mother loves a child. And I even remember when my mom was alive, the times, she played jacks with us, she cooked for us, she made our school clothes. I remember times where I was ill. She was, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And you could just see that love there. And so Leslie Graham, the reporter in the book, she's a newspaper reporter. She wants to be the first Black editor at her newspaper. She has two teenage daughters. And I wanted to show that story. I wanted to show a successful Black woman on the go, raising her two daughters successfully. And she's in the now, because the book alternates between then and now. In the past is then, and that's Barbara Morris, who has a daughter who's missing. And you're right, they're living two paths, over 2,000 miles away from one another in two time periods. And they do come together, their lives. There's a connection between the two women, and that's the mystery. And that's what readers are telling me, have them turning the pages like crazy, trying to figure out, how are these two women connected? And so in the now, Leslie Graham, her daughters are attacked, and so she's trying to figure out who's behind this, who's the culprit. She has a past that she references. Is it someone from that past? Who's doing this? Now, Barbara Morris in the den, her daughter comes up missing. What her husband and the authorities don't know is that she knows where her daughter is. And so she's upset with her husband. She found out that he's trying to divorce her and take the daughter away. So the other mystery is, where is Nancy, the daughter? What has Barbara done with this daughter? And so that's the title. There go, the daughter between them, this missing child. What is going on? How does that child relate to Leslie? But I wanted to write a story that shows the love of a mother, a mother's strong love and bond to their children. And you see that with both mothers in this book. And that is what kind of motivated me. Speaking of Mother's Day, it's coming up. This book would be a great Mother's Day gift, by the way, for anybody that's an early planner for Mother's Day.
Yeah, so you can definitely go to Amazon and get a copy of this book. And I want to say also, is that not too long ago, you were able to be recognized Best Indie Thrillers of the Year. That was a big statement, a big opportunity, a big recognition.
Yes, it was.
Kind of tell us, as a writer, I mean, we know you have many other books, but for this particular book, how did it feel for you to get that kind of positive feedback professionally?
It was amazing. When the Kirkus Reviews gave it a star review initially, and I was excited about getting the star review because that's very difficult to get, and they're very hard. And then when the notice came to be that my book had been named one of the top 100 thriller books of 2024, it was very validating. I mean, it was amazing because it just validated what I knew, what the agent who took on the book knew, what the readers were saying, other professional reviewers were saying. It was a very good feeling. It was very motivating when you get that kind of validation, because I believed in a book, but I'm biased. So when someone that is objective can give it that kind of award, it's very gratifying.
We're talking about a very prestigious award. It's a very highly respected, not just recognition, but platform to be associated with. So once again, listen, Am Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest, Alretha Thomas, and talking about her book that you can get on Amazon right now. Like she said, it could be a great Mother's Day gift. The title is The Daughter Between Them. You can get that right now. Like as soon as this broadcast is over, you can go get that. So my next question before we wrap up for today is, you had been able to experience great success as a playwright, a novelist, and actress. How do you see these creative disciplines influence each other in your storytelling?
Another great question. In terms of playwriting and acting and writing the books, I think they all come together because you're dealing with storytelling, and whether you're on stage. I had a play that came out in Hollywood in 2022 called Mommy and Clyde. And by the way, the director of the play won NAACP Theater Award for Best Director, and my cast was nominated for Best Ensemble Cast. It's the storytelling. When you're doing a play, people are on stage and you're seeing it, and it's more words. It's more of the words of storytelling. When I'm doing the book, it's more detailed, and I have to be more descriptive because you're not seeing anything unlike you would on a television, or a big screen. But I'm still dealing with characters. So I think where I get the best help and most help, the overlapping of the three, is when I'm developing and creating characters. When I do Anastasia, as I create a life for her. You know, who is she? Where was she born? All of these things that the writer doesn't give me, that may or may not have given me. And so I'm bringing her to life just like I would bring the character to life in the book. And so when I'm writing my books, I'm thinking like I do an outline and I think of the characters. I get in the character of Leslie just like I get in the character Anastasia. When I'm writing the character Mommy and Clyde, those characters, I'm taking on the skin of those characters. So I'm actually in those characters, and I'm feeling and I'm experiencing, because I write it first person in my book, I'm experiencing them. So there are times when I'm writing my book and I may be crying in a scene, and if I'm feeling it, the audience is going to feel it. So it's about the characterization, I think, that overlaps with all three genres, that helps me be able to do and make strong characters, and also commit to my character Anastasia on the show and make her strong, real, and believable.
My last question for you is, for our listeners and our viewers, you often say, and it's known that you say often that it's never too late to pursue your dreams. For someone out there who feels like time might have maybe passed them by, and maybe they didn't make the cut and they're too focused on that part of not being who they thought they could be, what would you say to that person to kind of shift their focus if they feel like time passed them?
I would say it's never too late. There's a scripture that says, your latter days will be better than your former days. I'm over 50. You know, I got the show when I was over 50. So it's not too late. There's really no time. You can't put a timeline on dreams. You got to go for it. I think people nowadays, older people, you know, boomers like us, people are stepping out and having second and third careers. This is my second career. And I remember I was in a workshop, and I was always one in the workshop. And I remember saying, I want a series. And I could see people looking at me side-eyed and probably saying, that old bag, and I got a series. So speak it, believe it, you can achieve it. It's not too late, right? Go step out right now and do it. You can do it. It's never too late.
It's funny because I'm going to squeeze this in there, but I think it's fitting for how we went with this dialogue. And that is, I remember years ago, I saw a post from Tyler Perry, and he was talking about watering the seed. And I feel that was so powerful because a lot of times we want to spread ourselves too thin. We want to try every little thing. And we almost get to the point where we're not even being effective because that very one thing that can be our main purpose is being neglected. And when it's been ignored too long, we may not ever reach the fullest potential. So that's something that kind of came to mind as you're saying that, because sometimes if we can just focus on watering that one seed, it can really bloom into something great.
That's so true.
Well, once again, you've been listening to Am Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Alretha Thomas. Make sure you get that book, The Daughter Between Them, a perfect gift for Mother's Day. Like always, to you, I want to say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.